And now we come to divine intervention. On one blessed night, the angel Gabriel came to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and woke him up. He took him out to the outside area of the Kaaba where a small husky donkey-like animal was standing there. He called him Buraq, which means the lightning. The angel Gabriel told Muhammad that you have to ride Buraq so that I can take you to Jerusalem. The Prophet Muhammad is blown away and amazed. He gets on this animal. And the Prophet described his journey that each stride that we took was as far as I could see. Then the Prophet landed in Jerusalem on that holy sacred ground of Al-Aqsa. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was greeted by many prophets whom God had brought down to pray with him. So he met Abraham, Moses, David, and others. And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, led them in a group prayer at the furthest sanctuary. When the prayer was over, the Prophet Muhammad and Angel Gabriel ascended into heaven. On his way up to the heavens, again, the prophets were at each layer of heaven, greeting the Prophet with love and respect. The Prophet was obviously overwhelmed in wonder. At last, he reached the lotus of the utmost tree in the presence of God. This was mentioned in Surah An-Najm, where it says, he then came closer and approached closer and closer with 2 bow lengths. He then revealed to his servant some revelations. In that time, in that moment, God revealed the 5 daily prayers to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. We call this the Salah. He also received the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah that outline the foundations of faith and spirituality in Islam. They read, the messenger and the faithful believe in that which was revealed to him from his Lord. They believe in God, his angels, and his scriptures. They believe in and honor all his messengers without exception. They pray, our Lord, we hear your word and we obey, seeking your forgiveness as our fate is with you alone. God does not burden any soul beyond its capacity. Each soul will be rewarded for what it has done good, and each soul will earn the retribution for the sins it had committed. They pray, our Lord, don't hold us accountable if we forget or make mistakes. Our Lord, don't burden us with heavy responsibilities as you have previous nations. Our Lord, don't burden us with more than we can handle. Pardon us, forgive us, and be merciful with us. You are our master, so help us against the hostile disbelievers. These would be the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was led by Angel Gabriel back down through the layers of the heavens. The angel Gabriel returned to the Prophet back to the physical world as quickly as they had left it. The next morning, Muhammad went straight to the Kaaba. There he saw Abu Jahl and others, and he announced that he had just journeyed to Jerusalem and back in the night preceding. People stopped listening to what he just said, and they were immediately confused and confounded. The Quraish leaders began to mock and make fun of him. Others cursed him as a madman. In their mind, obviously, a journey to Jerusalem took nearly 2 months on camel. Now the Quraysh felt that they had the perfect opportunity to prove that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was crazy. They started calling him a madman and teasing the Muslims about who they follow, making fun of them. Unfortunately, some believers lost their way over this. One man came to Abu Bakr and asked him, you know what Prophet Muhammad has said? Abu Bakr said, what did he say? He said that last night he went on a journey with an angel to Jerusalem. Abu Bakr quickly responded, if that's what he said, then I would believe it, because I am certain that for years now, God has been sending an angel from heaven with new revelations day and night to the Prophet Muhammad. This is where Abu Bakr became nicknamed As-Siddiq, the one who firmly affirms the truth. The night journey was no doubt God's answer to the Prophet's prayer and a special gift for all his patience and sacrifice. It renewed the Prophet's faith and foundation to keep going, and that everything was going to be okay despite the odds he was facing. It empowered him in this tough journey ahead. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, would face much more difficult challenges, and so he spent the next few months meeting with tribes and trying to call them to Islam. There were varying responses, but nothing really solid. One day during the pilgrimage season, he passed by a tent with 6 men. He asked them, where are you from? And they said, we're from Khazraj, and we are from a city called Yathrib. He explained to them, I am a messenger of God, and this is Islam. he taught them some of the teachings of the Quran, and they were immediately intrigued, and they said to each other, "This must be the Prophet that the Jews of Yathrib have been warning us about for years." They affirmed their interest and gave the Prophet their word that they would be back the next year. Just as they said, they came back the next year, but this time they came with 12 elder nobles in the tribes of Aus and Khazraj and Yathrib. They embraced Islam and formally gave their allegiance to the core teachings of the Prophet, and they promised to go back and propagate the message in their community and lay the bedrock for perhaps the migration that would come. They requested an ambassador who could effectively teach them the Quran and build in them a sense of certainty. Now, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, has a huge reservoir of amazing, knowledgeable, very pious, elderly, wise people. But out of all of them, in his wisdom, he chose a young man, barely 20 years old, Mus'ab ibn Umair. Mus'ab, in his knowledge and commitment to Islam and all of his sacrifice, became the perfect person because he would perhaps soon become the most consequential missionary ever.